jig yard.
Okay, I'm gonna call the East
We'll never
Hampton
forget.
Public Safety Meeting to order. We are missing Counselor Derby. It is 6:10. Our agenda tonight has James George from the Mobile Ed Corporation doing a follow-up on their request to install, what do I want to call them?
Utility structure.
Utility structure. And there's some debate over whether or not it's a utility.
Yeah.
And
Speeding cars.
Speeding cars.
Traffic
um,
and crosswalks.
so we do have you on our
Yeah.
agenda. I do just need to like write it up and send it into the city clerk, but I think I can post-date that. Would you mind terribly if I let the traffic concerns go first? And do we have minutes from the previous meeting?
No, did Salem take them, or I was in Australia?
Oh, that's right. I haven't seen anything from Salem, sorry. And then the
But
next
did
one,
someone take them
you
out?
were in Australia, the next one snowed, yeah. Salem was going to take them from the video afterwards.
Alright, let's get those from them.
So public speak time, you're both here. I'm gonna go to new business and then we'll do continuing business. Thank you, James.
You're welcome.
So you have some traffic concerns
Yeah.
about Cottage Street and Holyoke Street intersection.
Yeah, because I'm the crossing guard there.
Yes, and thank you for that.
Yes, thank you for
That's
your
not an
service.
easy one.
It's not an easy job, and this is why I'm just getting more and more concerned with traffic. I mean, the speed limit coming into town is 25 miles an hour. I know it's extremely slow, because when I drive, and I don't drive a lot, because I
Right.
can't stand the traffic. When I drive, it's really, really slow. But it's the speed limit. And there's a school that's gonna be, right around the corner. And I don't know what can be done to get people to, we were talking this, it's like educating people is the
Right.
main thing. And I don't know if that's possible, just, I tell them, as they're driving by, slow down, slow down.
So coming down Holyoke
Yeah.
Street, 141 from the mountain.
Yeah.
You hit that turn.
Yeah, I mean, the block up ahead, the first block right before the turn, that's where the sign is that says 25 miles an hour.
Okay, so
And-
it's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and can it be made this big, Can it be made bigger? Another thing, because when they come around the corner, there's my crosswalk, which is by Clark Street, but then there's the crosswalk by Nini's. And so, if you're coming around the corner and you're going more than 25, you have to slam on your brakes because you're going too fast. So I don't know how we can, when the police, the police have been good, because I've contacted them to, if they could periodically monitor. And occasionally they were up the street, and I can always tell when the police are up there because traffic is just going really slow.
Right.
That's one concern. The other concern is the people not stopping for people in the crosswalks.
Right.
The one especially in front of Nini's, because I'm not in front of Nini's, and, if there's two spaces that you can't
The
park
way
there.
this happens is it's Holyoke Street, and then Clark Street comes in, and then it's
Chapel.
is across the street, and then it turns into Cottage.
Yeah.
And there's actually also a side street.
Yeah,
there,
Stone
which
Path.
means
Well, there's Stone Path, there's 5 streets.
There are 5 streets that kind of come in on
Yeah.
this corner. Are there any slow for school zone area on Northampton Street, or is it out of the purview of the
In
school?
Holyoke Street?
You mean,
Holyoke Street,
there's
sorry.
nothing on Holyoke Street, because I think it's because the school is off of.
Just
Yeah.
far enough away.
Yeah. When I was brought this up at the council, the meeting, cones, the orange cones that they have, they have some in front of, off the map tattoo now, the bigger place, the main.
Oh, right in the middle of the
Yeah,
crosswalk,
they don't have them in the middle of the crosswalk, but they have 2 on the side. I know, what was it, when we had our first cultural chaos, okay, they had a cone on that area, that crosswalk, to prevent people from going down. And they left it up for the following Monday when school was in session, and it was beautiful. The cars slowed down. And I even saw traffic, big trucks be able to make the corner with that cone in the middle of the crosswalk.
Are you talking about the Nini's crosswalk?
No, my crosswalk, you
Okay.
know, the one where the curve starts by
Yeah, they
Clark
took
Street.
a little bit more south.
And it's like, you know, but then they took it away because they think the DPW didn't want it to break, you know, get hit by a car, you know, I understand.
I wonder if we could look at anything that's temporary like that. It
Well,
would
that's
put
what
more
I was
of a
talking to
burden
JP,
on where it would be something you could move
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
at the beginning of your shift.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about,
And then maybe
that I
move
would
back. 'Cause
kind
it's
of,
only really from that direction, right?
you know, in the afternoon, it's both directions, you know.
Is it both directions?
Yeah, you know, I mean, mine is bad, but
I
the
feel
one
like
in,
Cottage
yeah.
Street, they can't get enough speed up.
I know. The one in front of Nini's is horrible. I mean, I would love to have all the people come walking to my crosswalk so I could stop, you know, with my stop sign, but they don't. Some do, some have learned that maybe if they go to me, that it's a lot safer. But if there's at least one extra car parked in front of Nini's, okay, there's 2 spaces that are, you know, blank by the crosswalk, but even
Right.
if there's just one car parked there, cars coming up cannot see the people that are trying to cross, and that's a biggie. Last year, I got the town to put up those triangles, you know, with the person walking by my crosswalk. I had asked for one by Nini's, and they didn't get one there. I don't know if there was no place to put it. Because I know when I go through Northampton, when I see those signs, I know there's a crosswalk coming up, and, okay, I pay more attention.
I don't think anybody would disagree with you that it's tricky, and I know
Yeah.
that's an intersection that the police definitely are aware
Yeah.
of and do police.
Yeah.
I mean, they're marked there for speed,
Yeah.
I see them there quite a bit.
But it's, you know, again, it's, you know, I don't know how much can be done where, besides teaching people how to drive better, and that's the biggie.
And that's kind of a Herculean
Yeah.
task, I don't think you want to do that.
What time are you there in the morning?
I'm there from 8 to 9 in the morning and 2:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon. Unless we have a half a day, then I'm there from 11:30 to 12:30.
Gotcha.
You know, the other thing was, you know, they paint the crosswalks in the spring. Now, I was wondering if there was a way to, just like the main, you know, Cottage, not just Cottage Street, Union Street too, the main drag, if they can be painted again before, you know, winter, you know, because that's the problem, they can't see the crosswalk. You know, is there better paint out there?
Right.
You know, stuff that lasts longer. You know, I mean, I walk all over town, because you know, and I was in Main Street, crossing Main Street with the cone in the middle. I was at the cone and cars,
Yeah.
you know. So it's all over town, it's not just where I am, but it's just, again, you know, I keep thinking about what can be done, and a lot of it's just educating people how to drive better.
So that sounds like a couple of different ways that we could support
Yeah.
you. I think one of the things would be maybe to talk to the chief and see if we can just take a look at what's going on there. I'd like to get his feedback on that. It does sound like maybe if we could do some sort of temporary, that you would be
Yeah, I mean,
fortunately responsible for.
Yeah, they have one,
like-
they have one by the school where they have a cone. I mean, I could just, if they were placed at the school when I get there in the
Right.
morning, bring one over to my spot and bring one over by Nini's, you know, just by this, you know, where there's this, you know, space to put
And
it.
then the third point would be to just kind of double check the signage and the
Yeah.
painting on the crosswalk.
I mean, it's, you know, the crosswalks, you can't see them at all in front of
Mhm.
Nini's now. You know, it's really gone, and so,
Right.
you know.
Well, and then perhaps maybe a citywide campaign to just be better about crosswalks. I mean, if you look at the difference between how drivers are in Northampton versus East Hampton, Northampton, you know, when I moved out here, it took me forever to get used to it. Like, I just stood, I lived in Boston, I was like, I couldn't believe cars stopped. That really
Yeah.
surprised me, but.
Yeah.
Do you notice at all, do you think you get more customers if you were at Nini's instead of at Clark?
No, because I have people who park, they now come and they park, the ones who drive their kids to school park by the church and cross over Clark Street. So I have the majority, not a majority, but I have a bunch that come
At the
there.
school, too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then they just go to the school. But I mean, it's, you know, I think at one point they wanted, you know, people who walk down, you know, Cottage to come to my
Yeah.
spot. I think some of them go to this little store before they go to school, or some think it's just farther away.
No, you've really got it from all directions.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
asphalt
I mean, I
for you
have,
to
you know,
cover.
the people crossing Holyoke Street in front of me, and then, you know, the ones from Stone Path, and then, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a toughie. I love it, but it's, you know, There are times.
Well, obviously you love it.
I mean, I had a woman yell at me because I hit her, I slammed on her car with my hand because she just drove right by me, and she rolled down the window and said, "Don't you hit my car!" And I said, and she goes,
I would not engage in that.
no,
That
she
sounds
goes,
a little
what's,
dangerous.
well, no, she goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "Go to the police station." Haven't seen her since. So, that's it. I
It
just,
was
Right.
cold out there some mornings.
I don't mind the cold. I like the cold. I have enough gear, Yeah, I don't mind the cold out there. I just mind the traffic. The speeding cars, yeah. So, these are things, I've been trying to think of, different things. The cone, better crosswalk marking, or better
Well,
signage.
I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. A lot of times we have people show up with a problem without a solution,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, I've been just,
That's really
yeah,
nice
I've been
of you
just,
to
I
do.
even went online to see all the different, things that, for traffic calming and stuff like that, anything, and, again, a lot of it's education, a lot of it's, police presence.
And that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one for sure.
Yeah.
And those are conversations we can bring to the police department, to the DPW.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's no magic solution. We can snap our fingers because there's so many bad drivers in the world.
Yeah.
That's gonna happen.
Yeah.
No matter what, no matter how many signs we put up.
Oh, I know, that's it, it's like, after all the thinking I go through, it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter, people just.
But I can
drive.
appreciate your situation. It's a thing you watch twice a day,
Yeah.
5 days a week.
And I mean,
That's-
luckily
it's
I've
gotta get
trained,
old.
I've trained my kids, they
Yeah.
stop, do not go until I come out and say it's okay to go. Because there's some that, just
Yeah.
the little ones that run, and, they're with their parents or an adult, but they run ahead, and it's like, no, you gotta stop over there and wait for me, and so,
Some cars are worse, right? Be honest.
yeah. But yeah, so, it's time to see if we can do anything better. I don't know how the other, the Union Street people, that's a different, because it's just, straight away, that,
Yep.
yeah, it's not like my little corner of the world.
I think you're right about the education.
Yeah.
That would be something, we could definitely talk about, because there's a lot more pedestrian traffic downtown than there used to be.
Yeah, and that's it, I walk everywhere, because I walk and put a backpack on, go shopping at Big E's, so I'm always constantly out there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
No, we've got some tricky spots. It's
Yeah.
not all right angles in
No.
downtown.
I don't know who designed that corner. It's like, it's just not much fun.
No.
No.
Probably somebody with a horse and
Yeah.
carriage.
But then, maybe in 5 years it's not gonna matter, because if we get the new school,
True enough.
all of that'll be.
Hi,
Hi.
Hey,
Well, how are you?
we're great.
Well, maybe we're in a different conference.
who's for planning board?
Huh?
Who's it for?
The library board.
I believe they're downstairs.
Downstairs in
If you
B.
go to the end of the hall, there's a
Oh, I know where it
bulletin
is.
board.
There's plenty
that
of them,
has-
but yeah, I don't know. I said B, but I'm like, which
Oh,
one is B?
that's
Can I just
downstairs.
say hi, B?
Good to see you.
Okay, all right, so.
What's the best way for us to update and reach you?
Probably email.
Okay. And your email address?
It's Nettie, NETTIE 19 @verizon.net. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for your service.
I know, I just love my kids.
I
do.
know. The drivers you could do
Yeah,
without.
I can do without the drivers.
Exactly.
Can I stay and listen to what you're talking about?
Absolutely. So, little bit of an update is we would have to put an ordinance in place, and we haven't put an ordinance in place. And your other request about maybe repurposing some infrastructure that's at the police department, we haven't pursued that because we haven't had a chance to really get together and talk about whether or not that would be appropriate. And obviously, that's something I would wanna loop in probably our property committee and probably, obviously the chief.
What would be your timeline for the order? Do you have an indication?
So the ordinance committee has been super busy
They
lately.
don't even have this.
And they don't even have this yet. So,
It'd be very slow.
yeah.
Which is how you wanna hear it.
Right.
We.
I wish Salem was here because
transferred
he
over
could
to
speak
them.
to it.
Yeah. Salem's on the Rice Creek.
Okay, okay.
So
That's-
actually, so what are some other communities that you're working with that are also structured as cities? And what-
Salem, Massachusetts.
Salem, Massachusetts,
Yep, Salem,
which we've got, yep,
We got all the Canton's bylaws.
It's a town though.
yeah,
So they had to, they were interesting because a town, if they were to change their ordinance, their wireless ordinance, call it an ordinance, and they changed it to something, they would have to go through the Attorney General route. But the route they went, Canton, was they changed their, not bylaw, it's the main, they made it a utility. So they went over here and made it a whole utility situation. Street opening will pull this off.
Mhm.
So they were able to do it without Attorney General.
right.
Other
There's
than-
still some discussion about whether or not Mobilite is gonna be categorized or qualify as a utility, correct?
Well,
Is
I
it
don't.
mobile or mobility?
Mobility.
Mobility?
That's what
Why
it
not?
is.
I think so.
People say
Spelled
mo-
mobility.
It's Mobility LLC. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that. I don't categorize mobility as a utility. We are a CLEC, a competitive local exchange carrier, which directly competes with the utilities like Verizon or Eversource.
Correct.
So through the state, that's how I'm categorized. What we seek is essentially the same rights and conditions that we give the LEC, the local exchange carrier.
Mhm.
We feel strongly that we have done what we needed to do within the state of Massachusetts to gain the right to access that right-of-way space.
Right.
There's dialogue between, this is important, there's dialogue between us and the Mass Municipal Lawyers Group. Each municipal lawyer belongs to this club, and there's dialogue back and forth. So there's interaction between both of us to try to reach a middle ground
Right.
on exactly what's gonna happen there. So I can say that's fluid in nature.
Mm-hmm.
The notion of just basically kicking us out of the chamber because you interpret the Mass General Law different than us. Now, the Mass General Law is 200 years old, so is not going over well with us. You just can't say no and kick us out of the chamber. We have rights. We also have rights under the TCA, the Telecommunications Act. So I think that there's going to be middle ground between my side and the Mass Municipal Lawyers side on what process by which we can get this done.
Right, because our city solicitor, we did receive some information from him. He did seem to be falling on the side that, not the utility, so therefore, we would need an ordinance in place for this kind of company, because we don't have anything in place, because you fall outside of the
And he
utility.
did mention he's keeping up with the conversations through
the
the Mass
municipal-
Good.
Library?
Yeah.
Downstairs.
Where's that at right now?
We're trying, well, conversations back and forth, trying to get together with, they do a monthly
Right.
get together. We're looking to do a presentation in front of the body.
Mhm.
So, the way I understand it, we had conversations about 2 weeks ago in a call. They've set up some kind of a subcommittee within themselves that consists of how many lawyers. So there's been dialogue and correspondence back and forth on how
Right.
this might work. I think the next step with that group, as far as I understand it, is to get together in a room with, in their monthly, where they have agendas and people speak, and try to come to
You don't have time like that?
April. It's happening relatively quickly.
That's pretty good. So the Mass Municipal Association of Lawyers, they're going to render an opinion?
I think it's going to come out of that whole dialogue more of yes, as an opinion. Because, well, okay, that's not a
So
bad
yes.
thing. As I was saying it, that's about what
Yeah.
it's gonna be. They have to advise their client on what to do, right? So we're gonna try to come up with what's the middle ground on this.
Right.
And, they will advise you.
Mhm.
Now, this is important, I think. There is also federal action that's taking place.
Right. That I'm actually more familiar with than what's happening at the
Federal
state
action that's
level.
taking place has to do more with the fees. Throughout the country, this is a national campaign, people are making up fees, 10,000 for this, 20,000 for that. It's going to.
Way more than that.
Oh, yeah? Is that what you think? This federal action.
Somebody's gotta monetize it.
Federal, you can't make money on it. That's the thing. If Verizon is paying you nothing, or Eversource is paying you nothing for that, then we're gonna pay you a little bit north of nothing. So this is how that's gonna come out, and the timeline on that, which is also important. I think it's all gonna accumulate
Right.
at the same time, which is good. We filed a declaratory ruling. There's a group that represents a lobbying group that represents like council of mayors, council of that has gone up to the Hill themselves. They're gonna make a big public comment. I believe that's now due in April, if not May. They extended it to give them more time. They're gonna come back with public comment, and the FCC is going to make some kind of a determination ruling. Call it early summer,
Right.
for the way I see it. Now, that ruling is gonna come down, similar to other rulings that the FCC has done on the shot clock and other things that have happened in the industry.
Right.
And they're going to come, in my view, come up with an equation that's gonna be national. This is the equation that everybody has to use. No one can make up anything along the way. So on the pricing scheme, we're all sort of waiting for that. And that's about fairness and equitable, and you're not gonna charge me more than the other guy kind of stuff. And that's kind of the real layman's way to put that. On the municipal lawyer group, I maintain a level of confidence that the arguments will reach a middle ground, and both of us will advise, or they will advise their client on how this is gonna proceed. But here's been my position in front of the microphone. I've literally been there, 6 months worth of this stuff, 3 times a week in front of microphones. I have got my teeth kicked in by municipal lawyers that basically say, get out of my chamber, because we don't belong here and all that. My position has been clear that I feel strongly that we do. We went through the proper steps, and I believe we're both arguing from the gray. And when you both sides argue from the gray, oftentimes, you're gonna listen to your solicitor, and he's gonna advise you to deny, and there's not much I can do about it. Now, I think I tailed off on my point. So we're gonna reach a middle ground within the next couple of months. They're gonna come out with their action and advice, and we're gonna come out with our action and advice. What I feel strongly about is there is actions on both sides. I have said to city solicitors in a chamber full of people, you have actions. If you don't have a guidance from me on how to go about this, if you don't have an ordinance in place, or you can't tell me what I can and can't do, as I stand here right now, your ordinance is silent, therefore I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
So your action is to get together with your group and give me guidance, just like you are. So
Correct.
You've been proactive, but
So
there are
this
others
is
that
the
haven't.
way I see policy working, and I understand your feelings about it, but it's actually just how policy works. So the FCC is gonna be the federal umbrella that everything has to come under. I would be very surprised if the Municipal Lawyers Association would come up with something prior to an FCC information, because they're gonna wanna make sure that they get the money side of it correct with whatever their determination is to their clients. Their clients are
You know
us.
what, I'll give you that.
Okay, so then federal's gotta go first. Then that's gonna come from Mass Mutual, and they're gonna put it together. And then the cities are gonna start putting their ordinance together. Do you see a possibility of there being like statewide ordinance, or is this gonna be something that is gonna go town by city?
In my view, I think it's going to go town by city.
I think it is
Town by
too.
city, because
So-
that's the way they typically go.
So depending upon how the Mass Mutual Lawyers Association goes, if they render an opinion, and this I'm gonna pose to you, how binding is that opinion to us? Like, is that something that we can hang our hat on as far as be like, okay, here's the opinion from the Mass Mutual Lawyers. We're gonna send this to the ordinance committee, and we need to write something that complies with these concerns from the Mass Lawyers Association.
Yeah, if you're trusting, it's like if Jack gives us an opinion, we don't say,
Precisely.
no, we think Jack got the law wrong.
Right.
We're gonna do something
Precisely.
against this.
So if you're asking what our plan is gonna be, it's probably gonna be FCC, and then the Mass Lawyers Association, and then once we get that opinion, we'll hand it off to the ordinance committee, and then we'll have an ordinance, we'll hand it off to you.
Okay, I understand that process, and I acknowledge that I have other avenues that I can pursue. Okay, there are other things that I can do. Let's say we're now waiting on 3 or 4 months, which is however long that's gonna be.
Correct.
We are forging ahead with agreements with MassDOT. MassDOT is anything state highway, interstate highway, 495s, 91s. They're doing an awful lot with intelligent transport systems. You see the cameras up there? Okay, awful lot of work there.
Yeah.
So we would come in, let's assume 141 is a state road. We would come in under your ordinance with land control, with a letter of authorization from Massachusetts DOT, and say, I want to plant a pole in that right-of-way space. You don't own it?
Right.
They do? So it would be subject to your current ordinance on how that will all work.
Right, and usually anything that happens on a state road, like if we were to put in a stop sign or a stoplight, we always defer to DOT.
Okay. I'm just saying that all this dialogue about contractual bounds between, we would be contractually bound if it's in your right-of-way space, more of a lessor or lessee relationship. That would alleviate my weight to the FCC and the Mass Municipal Lawyer Groups. My guidance is the current ordinance.
Mhm.
I don't have to wait for your land control, which is what you're waiting on.
Right.
And I would just move forward and
Yeah.
see what the planning board has to say about it.
And what has your feedback been from the DOT in regards to this kind of situation? Because I'm sure you've done that avenue in other cities and
So
towns
here's
as well.
the thing. The
Like on a
DOT
scale of 1 to 10.
The DOT is just now coming around. We have a couple of what we're calling pilot programs.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a, what do I want to call it? A guidance on where they can put it. They have construction guidance. It has to have access. It has to have proper this, proper that. And they also indicate something soft as you have to get the buy-off of the jurisdiction. We're not just going to go in and plant a pole without any kind of public process. So the Mass DOT's position, as far as I see it, is it's up to us to get the buy-off of the jurisdiction to do this.
Mhm.
The way to do that is for me to go into public hearing, not through the city council this time,
Right, planning board.
planning board, which
Mhm.
is another way to go about this.
Sure,
I don't have to wait for anybody.
correct.
And then go about it that way. And if they deny me, they deny me, but if they accept me, I build my pole in the MassDOT right-of-way space. So it's called a parallel path. The majority of what we're gonna do with MassDOT is on the Cloverleafs and the Route 91s.
Mhm.
But because of this, call it backlog of federal and state guidance that's about to come down the pike,
Right.
I'm going into the 141s and, just name a numbered roadway, which are essentially the main-
5, 10, that's pretty much what you're gonna find down here.
which are
141,
essentially the
5,
main
10.
streets coming through the center of your town.
Mhm.
Now, that may be a little bit aggressive. I don't choose to do it, but if this whole notion of municipal right-of-way space, you're gonna take 6 months to get things together, I'm gonna take the parallel path and see how that one goes. In the parallel path, my contractual relationship was with MassDOT. They get my money.
Mhm.
So the jurisdiction, although I'm gonna put a pole in the middle of Main Street, doesn't get any money because you don't own the real estate beneath me. So that's the downside of that, as far as the jurisdiction is concerned.
Right. Are you pursuing through this path through the planning board and working with the DOT and any other communities?
It's just started. My answer is no to that question.
No.
Not
Yeah.
so far, but perhaps within the next 30 days, 15
Right.
to 30 days.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you're hired by the company, you've gotta do whatever the company wants you to do. I
Yes.
mean, your job is to get these things in the ground. I'm sure they wanna do it now in the spring, so I mean, you're welcome to try whichever way you want. We just don't have any sort
Yeah,
of
I'm not
tools.
scared into rushing and giving you something right now without going through the ordinance committee, without going to talk to our own planning board, talking to our own solicitor, who has already told us he's monitoring the state solicitor board.
you know what, both of you, I agree. It was not my expectation to be approved. I think this was more of my expectation as I am up and down I-1.
Yeah.
All the way through. I want to keep up with you. There's no downside to a 10-minute conversation, but I acknowledge we're waiting for what happens here, but also I got this MassDOT thing going on. We may just re-engineer it and give it a shot.
Yeah,
So those are the way
absolutely.
that-
I mean,
that's the
keep
way
us-
that we are proceeding.
Yeah, we
Keep
can't
us posted,
stop you
because
or start
we're
you in that
totally gonna
process.
watch that, for
Yeah.
sure, I mean, it's an interesting situation, because, are you a utility, you don't really have a definition of what your company is, which is kind of interesting.
Well, I'm not gonna give you that one. We are a competitive local exchange
true.
character. I will acknowledge that this is extremely entrepreneurial, and no one else has done it yet.
Right.
But what the heck?
Yeah,
And the confusion is just abounding, but it's up to me to educate the body to
Mhm.
the best of my ability. I get a lot of like these, and I don't know about that, and the attorneys don't know what the heck to do with it. But it's, after 6 months, it's starting to come around. People are digging their heels in.
well, I mean, I feel like we have a pretty good board here, we all went through and we read it, and we figured out what was going on, and I think it's.
I gave you
it's
all
an
my
idea.
information that I
Yeah.
had.
No, and we, went and got our own, especially from the FCC, and it's just a matter of like just being a policy person, like this is just how it just how government works.
We also have some victories, like, we're very close to the city of Boston. And what
Mhm.
we're doing with them, and this is interesting, is they have these black decorative light poles that you see, that they own. We are 200 of them. We're gonna take that pole out of the ground, replace it with a replica that we own,
Mhm.
and we're gonna paint it. So it's gonna be a black decorative pole, a little bigger, with my antennas on, designed to hold my antennas. So all over the place in
Yeah.
the city. That's a win. So.
No, totally, it's
we've
those little
done-
gas lamps that they mimic, which
We've
is
done
really
very
nice.
good with our design.
Mhm.
We can design something that can fit within any, from a wood pole to a black decorative, there's a whole array of designs. The issues that I'm confronted with are, I'm getting bound up with the definition of CLEC, who are you, you're not supposed to be here kind of stuff, and I get that,
Mhm.
and I'm getting bound up with the money. All right, all that is being solved, and it'll come out the other side. Patience and tolerance is what I need to happen.
Right, and then once we get the okay, then we could start talking about locations, because there were definitely some of the locations that you had thrown out initially, we were
Before?
like,
Yes.
we don't think they were okay. I mean, if
But
we
they
don't.
obviously weren't even thought out, somebody just.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Found these things.
Well, I'll give them that.
To us.
Yeah.
And that's been frustrating for me.
Yeah.
When radio, my market is, I am driven by radio frequency engineers, putting dots on pages.
Right.
And that sometimes is poor, because it then comes to me like, that was a poor choice. You're in a historic district, you're next to a memorial, you know, that kind of crap. So there's been a lot of redesigning going on, and, but I think it's churning in the right direction. This is how this goes. I was around at the beginning of telecom, '96, when no one knew about cellular at all. And the evolution of what's been happening in cellular has been 2 decades worth. It always starts like this, with confusion and arrogance, and then it ends up,
I don't
everybody
think
settles
we've been
down.
arrogant, but.
We didn't say which party he was talking about.
Yeah.
That's true.
It confusion, and it always ends up with federal guidance.
Mhm.
That's the rule. And you may choke on it, you may not like the shot clock, you may not like 6409, but this is the federal government coming in, and that's the way this is gonna end up.
And I think once we get all that sorted out, you'll find that we're a very good, progressive, well-organized community that will be very open about their public process, putting this together and writing an ordinance and,
I think
you
you
know.
are. I like East Hampton. I like East Hampton. Do you have any other questions of me? What do you want to do as it relates to, you want to sort of keep it as old business? I'm not going to withdraw anything until we.
No, we're not gonna, we won't take it off our agenda. I mean, we
No,
just
because
don't
we'll
have
still
anything.
Do our homework.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll still have a meeting, talk to Salem about it, and,
Right.
learn more from Jack, learn more from the state committee, learn more from DOT stuff going on.
Yeah.
And you'll obviously be doing the same for yourself and.
I haven't gotten a Google alert in a while. That's consuming.
Well, when you, what, Google for mobility? That's right. Why not?
Why wouldn't I?
Why wouldn't you?
Anytime you guys hit the news, I get an email.
It's all right. It's okay. No more social media. Do you have any questions?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Now, do you want me to come down every 2 weeks, or do you want to just talk to each other, or?
I mean, obviously, you're more than welcome to come out here, but I know you live in Salem. So, I mean, I don't wanna,
How about next time, how about the next concerning event is, I would like to get through the FCC public comment.
so we don't meet every 2 weeks. What we do is we meet the first Tuesday of the month.
All right.
So we try to do a regular meeting. I mean, agenda-wise or, you know, weather-wise or anything that's gonna happen, but we do try to do that so that there's at least some consistency with when we're gonna be around, and it's not.
I try, because I am out here in other jurisdictions, basically, all the time, once a week maybe. So, we'll
So
take it.
our next meeting would be, I
I think it's the fourth.
don't know, man,
Where was that?
yeah, it's important, good for you.
4th of what, April?
It's,
I work in publishing, I'm already at the end of April, I have no idea what day. I'm working on an October issue. Summer's already gone for me.
Oh.
Okay, do you have any other questions of me?
No, I don't. But if you would like to continue to send us information, especially in regards to anything you hear from the FCC or the Municipal Lawyers Association, that
I
would
certainly
be
will.
great.
I think that would be good.
Yeah.
And, yes, I will, both of those items. 'Cause you were
And I hope
trying
you
to-
feel like that's reasonable of us, that seems like a very reasonable plan for us.
Completely reasonable.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Thanks for coming, James. I'm gonna go to new business for a second. I just have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I had somebody ask me to do something very similar to what you did, where, you know, it's a matter of looking at an intersection. And she sent me like pictures and a video and stuff like this. So what is the proper way for us to do that? Like, I mean, normally I would just call the chief and be like, hey, can we go look at this intersection? I don't know if it's something that should actually go on the agenda, but it's a constituent who contacted me and was like, I would really like to see somebody
Well,
go and take a look at this. Very similar to what you did.
So it depends on what the request is. If they're saying, Jen Hayes, you're a city councilor, I want you to go look at this intersection and tell me what you think, then you don't have to do anything, then go down to the intersection if you want to, and tell them what you think. If they're saying there needs to be a change here, an official citywide change and something, you know, added or deleted.
I encourage you and other counselors, the city planner, to take a drive, especially during peak weekday hours, with a bunch of pictures. I mean, I kind of,
But is there a request to change the speed limit, add a stop sign? I mean, there's not gonna be any
It's-
official action by the council, then it
it's
doesn't.
dangerous, is what the determination is that it's a very dangerous area.
I went through the police, I just sent them a message on their board saying, before, you know, to ask them if they, you know, I talked about the
Right.
Nini's, and I just asked them if they can periodically come by and just sit there and watch.
No, and they're great about
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's really helpful
Yeah.
when somebody just asks them.
Yeah.
And then they have a very specific task.
I mean, you're asking me if it's something you should put on the official agenda,
Right,
if you anticipate official action.
right. I guess I don't. I think
I
I'm
mean, you
gonna
could
talk.
forward that email to whatever city councilors you want, whoever in the planning department, planning board you want, whoever in the police department you want. And then if any of those parties say, well, all right, here's something we can do, let's put that on the agenda, let's send that out, let's get DPW involved.
Great. I'm just looking for the best way to get a response, because I feel like sometimes these things come in and like, they just flounder. So I just try to make sure that like, this person knows like what.
Was a direct email from a constituent to you?
Yeah,
So you make sure it doesn't flounder.
yeah,
That's-
exactly. All right, so that's what I'll do. I'll write it up and we'll put it back on again and have somebody take a look at it. And then we have a public record of it, that it was discussed and
Right.
looked at. Okay, thank you.
I mean, just putting it on the agenda to get the police department to look at it, you could call the police department and ask them.
No.
So there's only, it needs to go on the agenda if
Right.
it's something you want on the record or you think it's gonna need city council approval at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky.
I'm getting into dealing with the, you know, sending in police.
Right.
You know, the snow removal
Well,
by
you
the
work
church.
for the city, you're doing something
Yeah.
with the schools, you're doing
Yeah.
crosswalks, like, for me, that was
Yeah.
like a no-brainer. It's like, of course we figure out how to make this safer. These are kids going to school.
What's the intersection question?
This is, Prospect and High Street. So where High Street next to Big E's comes
Yeah.
down, and then it's a solid L
Oh, yeah.
to Prospect Street, and it's
That's
not,
interesting.
it's not a curve, like, I mean,
Sorry, I just kind of, whenever I've driven there, I just slow down and take a right turn.
yeah.
But I guess, you know, because there are houses at the end, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's somebody who's recently moved to the neighborhood, there's like cars parked at that
Yeah.
intersection, I mean, it is kind of one of those things where it's like, it's just weird and tricky, everybody knows, but,
You know, a lot of times the answer is just, if it's if someone's parking in an intersection, that's against the law, call the police, have them tow the car, those kinds of things.
but it's not an intersection. I mean, the road literally comes down and makes a right angle, so they're parked in front of their house,
Yeah.
you know?
Well,
No, I don't
a
know.
majority of people don't know that you can't stop at a crosswalk either.
Hi,
Is there a meeting here today?
There's several. Are you looking for the library or the planning board?
this is the best meeting.
The-
Yeah.
Public
The one
safety?
about the marijuana laws?
That's
Upstairs.
probably upstairs.
Upstairs in the school section?
Yep,
Yeah.
just a
That's
big
what it
open
is.
room.
Alright, thank you.
All right, I will do that then. I'll do that. I don't really have anything else. Do you?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Thus concludes.
I'm finally getting into going to different meetings. It's kind of fun, interesting.
It's definitely interesting.
Yeah.